moisture, like this riverbed, it can flake, crack, and become open to infection.
Vaseline Intensive Care Skin Science Update with Pamela Armstrong.
Intensive research has developed a solution to open, cracked skin. Vaseline Dermacare. Its occlusive formula helps skin replace lost moisture immediately, soothing and protecting your skin so it can heal itself naturally.
Vaseline Dermacare. From intensive research comes intensive care.
Stopping up drafts around your doors slows down global warming and saves money, of course.
Call 0345 247 347.
It's 1956.
You are a twit.
What? And Frank's about to discover life.
Everything's changing. For the worse.
And women.
Who was that? That girl. You are the best, Sylvie.
Baby, if I made you mad for something I might have said,
Don't you have nothing to do with me?
please don't forget
Come between a man and his wife.
Dennis Potter's Lipstick on Your Collar begins February the 21st on Channel 4. In half an hour, the soaring prices of Staffordshire pottery are explored by Nicholas Ward Jackson in the final For Love or Money. First on 4, the final diagnosis in the drive for efficiency in Operation Hospital.
December 1992, King's College Hospital, London. Staff gather to hear their chief executive, Derek Smith.
Okay, is everybody in? Where are you all? You've all disappeared. I thought today what I wanted to do was to look back on the past year, which has been interesting, at times difficult.
Smith has just taken King's through a year-long efficiency drive, which has turned the hospital upside down.
To the next. This year I was given the opportunity of having an alternative logo for this outfit, which is that. I guess for many of us it has felt like that as well.
Smith makes light of it, but as King's begins to prepare for Christmas, he knows that the problems faced in 1992 are nowhere near concluded. By December the 25th, 3 verdicts on what's really been happening at King's are due to be delivered. December the 4th, Smith prepares for the first verdict. 5 outside experts from the King's Fund, after an exhaustive audit of every department, are about to pronounce on King's managers. Paradoxically, Smith hopes that they will expose weakness and inefficiency. The reason? He's being criticised for bringing them in and involving everyone in months of preparation. Many think that it's been a waste of time.
We have to get on, I know, because we're devoting the whole morning to it, which is...
The auditors could now prove his critics wrong.
They know an awful lot about us now. They want to tell us about that. It's followed up, of course, by the written report from King's Fund.
But his hopes of a hard-hitting expose of managerial failings are today at least to be disappointed. This, for instance, is the verdict on casualty, where recurring crises have almost destroyed the hospital's reputation.
You got a lot of bad national publicity about a year ago. You have tackled it, and you're going to have to go on tackling it very vigorously, and sometimes quite cruelly, for a long time. You've done a great deal in recent months, but it's a problem that's going to be with you forever, and it's going to require continual vigilance.
This is the verdict on site services, which is responsible for looking after the hospital's crumbling buildings.
You need to tackle the clutter message. You have a clutter problem, it needs to be tackled. We're we're very heartened to know that real efforts are being made to tackle that now. But it's an issue.
And this on King's 2,500 nurses, many of whom say they're overstretched.
Nurses generally appear untidy in their uniform, and to my dismay, some of them in the wards were even wearing cardigans. So I'm pleased when talking with Heather yesterday that one of the first policies to be reviewed has been the uniform policy, and I think that should be implemented as soon as possible.
And this is the verdict on the ageing operating theatres, which everyone in the hospital knows are about to be replaced.
I've seen some theatres in my time. They are old and primitive and horrid. And I'm just congratulate all the staff who work in them, because they are really such bizarre...
The verdict on the equally cramped medical records library is similarly without surprises.
Whatever we've said about accommodation is more than true for the medical records department, who are really working from an appalling base. And I think one of the difficulties is in there is that not only is there the problem of the filing system, but there is lots of other clutter around as well. And some of that clutter could actually...
It is by no means as tough as Smith had hoped. The audience knows that a more detailed, maybe more hard-hitting report will follow. But for the moment, the feeling about the great test of management at King's is that it was barely skin deep.
You don't satisfy everybody with the kind of a survey that you take, or the presentation that is made, or even the report that subsequently comes. All that matters subsequent to it is that we focus on the things that have been picked out as things that they think that we ought to be concentrating on, setting that against the things that we think we ought to be concentrating on. This is a continuous process, and we go on and on and on.
But managers' minds are quickly elsewhere.
Sorry, you'll be interested in seeing this too. This is what we have to do.
Even before they've cleared the room after the presentation of the auditor's report, the audit is all but forgotten, overtaken by a newspaper story about cash and cuts.
And this is what we get as a headline: Axe, nurses, fury, etc. Now imagine the damage that does towards staff in terms of morale, and it is rubbish in terms of fact.
The news story that King's could axe 240 nurses is based on a proposal from HealthX, the management consultants brought in by Smith to advise on another part of the efficiency drive, cutting costs. HealthX has helped save over £1 million as King's has struggled to stay within budget, but its nursing proposals still under consideration have caused outrage. This row, coming in the run-up to Christmas, occurs just as Smith's whole financial approach is being put to the test. As 150 staff arrived for the canteen's annual Christmas lunch, two senior executives set out for a meeting with the new local agency that buys treatment from King's, the South East London Commissioning Agency, or SELCA.
Are you off to SELCA?
Yes, we are. Talk about contracts.
Is it going to be heavy?
It might be. It depends how amenable they are. We set out to give them a surprise this year, which was to make a substantial rise in the prices in our contracts. And we've at least achieved that. They have been surprised and had their breath taken away by that. The question is, do they want to work with us to get this place away from providing good services in bargain basement surroundings? Or don't they? And that's what we're going to talk about.
Presumably some of your services could be lost if you don't win this negotiation.
We couldn't rule that out, but that's a risk we're taking in our strategy for getting more income into this organisation to provide services better and consistently better.
How much more money are you asking from them?
Oh, that's an interesting thought, and I'm not sure I'm prepared to say right now.
But several millions?
I think we want a substantial amount more than we're getting at the moment. Yes. So you can talk millions, yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The negotiations, still continuing, overshadow the hospital's financial success during the past year. King set out to save £5.5 million by cutting out waste. It's achieved around £5.25 million. They're earning £500,000 less than anticipated from patients outside the locality, but they still expect to come in almost on budget. Yet many here fear the reward for their success will be a new year just as hard as the one now coming to a close.
I'll be glad that it's over. It's been a year of rapid change. We've managed to get through it.
Have you got any worries about the coming year?
Lack of financial support.
What do you think about King's next year and about working here?
Well, after 16 years, you just hope for the best. I think they'll retire me.
For Derek Smith, the sense of perpetual crisis intensifies the problem posed by the HealthX proposals. They say King's could save £4.5 million by using fewer nurses more efficiently, and another £1.5 million by using fewer doctors. Both claims are disputed.
There is a certain amount of disappointment which has been expressed by the divisional managers. And
Jonathan Booth, managing director of HealthX, is told there are major difficulties.
But I think that they felt that there would be more clear-cut opportunities than they necessarily see in the report for there to be management action taken.
Okay. I think if anybody was expecting a prescribed method of saving what could be several £1 million, it just isn't as simple as that. Life isn't like that. But I think some of those savings can be achieved fairly quickly. We're fairly confident about that. We do understand the difficulties in doing too much about the consultant plan.
The signals I'm getting back from the divisional managers are, one, this is very complicated and hard to get into, and two, because the data is something that they're so uncertain about, it's hard to move quickly.
Sure. I think in some areas the data isn't quite as bad as maybe you're being led to believe. I think it's very easy to say we can't do this because the data's bad, and in some cases.
Smith decides to keep HealthX on board. He's paid them £130,000 and he's determined to get his money's worth.
You've got the meetings next week with the divisional managers, and then out of that, what we, I think, need to devise is have the divisional managers devise are the action plans. You think that's reasonable?
I think so, and of course we want to get a return on our investment. Sure.
The HealthX issue remains unresolved. Their proposals on doctors and nurses may not ever be implemented, but one way or another, Smith counts on them leading to savings.
I think there has been some reluctance on behalf of some of the managers, but in the end, all I do is point them to the bottom line. In many ways, it doesn't matter to me whether they use HealthX or not to achieve an appropriate bottom line.
Of course, a lot of the negative responses are due to people who may feel threatened because we are challenging traditions which have been around for a long time. We unashamedly come into a hospital to save money, and we're not always seen as the good guys.
Let's get something absolutely straight. HealthX propose a range of things that can be done. It is inevitable that not all of them can be done, but there is still that requirement upon managers to achieve, where they can, more cost-effective services, more efficiency.
For the moment, though, the problems of the coming year are forgotten as staff celebrate the old. And besides the improved finances, there are other causes for celebration. The kitchens and the food are markedly better. They've begun work on extending the medical records library. Soon there will be new operating theatres, and after that a new casualty department. But as the old year ends, no one knows how long the money needed to maintain the momentum will be forthcoming.
That's essentially a political decision. I mean, the amount of money that's going to come into healthcare in this country as a whole is what the government decides and what the electorate votes for. In the end, the electorate will get the health service it wanted.
But meanwhile, before Christmas, Smith faces one more verdict on the past year.
Sorting out drugs still.
It will be the most important of all.
Did we get all the transfer stuff in?
It's whether they've succeeded in sorting out problems that have led to casualty patients spending 20 hours and more on trolleys before being found beds.
Right, Stephanos, this gentleman,
Mr. Coppola.
No one doubts across King's enormous efforts have gone into tackling those problems.
He's much improved. We are planning a discharge. We're planning for tomorrow, in fact.
Tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the senior consultants, for instance, is now on call every day to clear beds if they're suddenly needed for emergency patients.
Could you ask the medical registrar to come down here in 10 minutes when we're finished so I can discuss it with her?
Yes,
Because this is a possibility.
Yes, yes.
Okay, talk to you later.
Okay.
The on-call consultant can go over the heads of other doctors and discharge any patient in the hospital.
So really, he's not safe to go home at the moment.
What sort of placement?
Either Part 3 accommodation or whether his home is suitable with community support.
Right. Okay, you think no possibility today?
No, sir.
The system helps cope with sudden surges of emergency patients.
His gentleman was only transferred to us yesterday and has been very short of breath. He's not suitable to go home.
Have they made a diagnosis, do you know?
He's a long-term.
It was introduced initially because we had patients waiting in casualty for a long time, and an analysis of the situation showed that it was discharge from hospital that was causing inefficient use of beds, and that was damming back up to cause the problem in casualty. Therefore, you have to have a system in an overcrowding situation in casualty of going to the end of the chain and discharging patients. It's a question of deciding which patient should go home with the least discomfort, the least disturbance to his life, in order to bring in a very ill patient from casualty.
He's not suitable for discharge.
Not at all. You're sure about that?
Positive.
Okay,
yes,
fine. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
To further ensure priority is given to emergency patients, doctors have been told that their other interests must come second.
So your X-ray now?
Yeah.
That's your wrist and the plaster there.
Consultants thought not to be towing the line have been lent on.
Each one of those is being dealt with on a discrete one-to-one basis behind closed doors, and the evidence is that that's successful.
How many people have you talked to?
Ooh, more than one or two, but not a great many.
And what have you said?
It depends on circumstances. In some respects, we've been blunt about performing against clear requirement. In others, it's about what you can do or cannot do given the contracting framework.
There has been a major reorganisation over the year of the responsibilities of clinicians, and clinicians who did not feel that they could meet the responsibility of acute medical care have ceased to practice as acute general physicians, undoubtedly.
The result of all the changes, something of a transformation in casualty.
We've enjoyed some of the changes. There's a lot of hope. We've got a lot more new staff, and things are improving.
In all, we've got a lot more support, and that support is actually being brought down to the department and to the nursing staff.
But despite all this, in November and December, casualty has become jammed up again with patients waiting hours on trolleys, sometimes all night, before being found a bed. Yet another investigation has been ordered.
Measures of stay in EAW.
Hospital statistician Michael Fleming gives the results to John Costello's Emergency Admissions Committee.
Wow. It's rare it ties up exactly with the stuff from EAW for all sorts of...
His figures suggest the crisis is a temporary upset. Overall, the speed of admissions continues to improve.
And you see that an awful lot more cases are going through, say, since June. That's very significant. The average stay was never below 2 days up to June, since it's never been above.
When you look at them objectively like that, those figures are actually quite good. Or they're not satisfactory, but they're certainly a heck of a sight better than they were a year ago.
A&E stats. A&E performance. Right?
Derek Smith and John Costello later see the Director of Casualty, Ed Glucksman, to discuss the trends.
All right, we've got the chart with the
They think the improvement shows that doctors really are better organised now.
I mean, overall, as you can see, we're doing an awful lot better on the numbers who are waiting only 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, the other feature of this is that there was, if you look at the total area under the curve, there was a huge surge in total numbers who came in.
I think you can see from the profile that even though we're doing much better, that you know, we can't relax.
No.
Particularly as we go into the winter.
As the year ends, King's knows that it's done a great deal of what it set out to do, providing more treatment at a lower cost, with patients moving through more smoothly than before. But it's been painful. The combination of financial stringency and tough policing has upset many doctors. Feelings have come to a head among the half-dozen top specialists who work in Donald Gibbs' department.
Well, I have been applying more pressure to ask them to attend clinics. They have become discontented and held a meeting where they decided to express a view to me that I had become more of management and less of clinical.
Are they very, very vehement in their complaints?
There has been a degree of vehemence, almost to be termed in inverted commas an attempted coup. I believe a problem is that, of course, everyone is fighting for their own corner, and their own corner may have not a great deal to do with the greater good of the greater number of patients, but the greater good of a small number of patients in a very specialised area.
World-famous menopause specialist John Studd is one of the consultants involved in the row. He runs one of 2 menopause clinics at King's. He's unhappy with the way Gibb runs the department.
He pleases all of us, whether we're there or not, and he may see that as his job. That may be wrong, because it's not a clocking in, clocking out situation. We're professional executives, if you like, and we have many, many roles.
The head of King's other menopause clinic is equally put out.
If you are a group of consultants and one of your number becomes a care group director, and one of them starts turning round and perhaps, with some justification, one must say, being heavy-handed and a policeman, then it is likely to cause resentment, and there's going to be, interpersonal warfare.
Well, the argument is that consultants are often not here at King's. They are jaunting around the world, they're doing private practice, they're doing research, whether they should be here in their clinics, etc.
That's absolutely true, absolutely true. I mean, whether this is a necessary part of your one's job or truancy is a matter of great debate, I think. But I have no doubt that of the research projects I've been talking about, they're achieved by people going out, wheeling and dealing, finding research funds, getting contacts, lecturing all around the world. You don't get it by sitting on your bum in Camberwell.
He described it as almost a coup, an attempted coup. Would you think that was an understandable reaction?
Yes, but it might be understandable, but we did actually have a meeting with him 2 days later, which I think, fully explained why we had met off-site and without him.
One of your care group directors, Donald Gibb, has faced what is called almost a coup, an attempted coup by his senior consultants. What do you make of that?
This is completely unacceptable conduct on their behalf. And if they pursue that kind of line, they will find that the care group director is fully supported by the organisation, and they face the organisation's full force in dealing with them.
I think they have now backed down. Are you surprised?
I'm not surprised at all. What I'm surprised about is that they did something so silly in the first place.
Consultant contracts may need to be looked at, but not in the style that's being performed at the moment. I don't like the macho style of management.
Do you think this is going to be the future, then?
I think it may be the future in certain hospitals where the pressure is on, to perform a district service, and at the same time, as we have at King's, on providing a super-regional service, liver, cardiac, renal and so on. I don't think the equation sort of adds up, as it were, and this will result in further instances of macho management.
Good morning, sir. My name is McGregor.
Yet some at King's, equally committed to the traditional NHS, like Alan McGregor, think the process must continue if they're to do the best for their patients.
I think, quite frankly, I would see this year as the beginning of an attempt to be more efficient, and I think that rather than too much, there's probably too little. I think that we have a long way to go.
There's still wide differences in things like average length of stay between consultants who would appear to have a similar case mix.
For the moment, such people, passionately committed to the NHS, have forged a community of interest with the new tough managers brought in by the health service reforms. But it may not last. Some fear the push for efficiency could one day put their patients at risk.
We live in an area of enormous social deprivation. We deal with a group of patients who are much less familiar with their rights than the individuals living in the Shires or in Kensington and Westminster. And I have been terribly worried that as part of our greater efficiency, we would further compromise the most fragile members of this community. So on the one hand, I see efficiency potentially as helping that group of patients, but because one is so aware of the potential damage to them, one is certainly caring for them with one's eyes open. Very, very keen to ensure that their interests are being recognized and their fragility protected.
In 7 weeks' time, the hospital is due to become a trust, and the pressure for more efficiency will become even greater. The managers say there is a long way still to go. Others here worry at what that might mean. For all of them at King's, 1993 is going to be another tough and demanding year.
Things are changing slowly, I suppose. They're trying to find ways of improving it, but time will tell whether it works or not, I suppose.
So you're hopeful?
Absolutely. Always. I'm a nurse. I'm an optimist.
Nice nurses doing their best. With the limited resources they've got, they're doing their best.
If you'd like to know more about your rights under the Patients' Charter, Channel 4 have produced a unique guide. For your copy, please send a cheque or postal order for £2 payable to Channel 4 to Today's Health Service, a user's guide, PO Box 4000, London W3 6XJ.
Why doctors and consultants still like to keep so many secrets. The latest approaches to the curse of back pain. How embarrassment prevents people seeing